Hi guys, my name is Jalen and this is my card game. It's called Skirmish. Um, so it's just a two-player game and it's got two phases. It's got attack and defend phase, and basically you just win through strategy. I would compare the game something similar to like War, but just a little bit more complicated. So this is how you play. First, we would shuffle the deck, and then each player would get four cards face down, and each card is a health point. There are two phases. There's an attack slash buff phase, so you can choose whether to do one or the other on that phase, and there's a defense phase. Um, you start by determining the order of the players. Each player would take turns attacking and defending, and once you lose all of your health points, you're out of the game. Of course, the last one standing wins. This is what a preview of the board would look like. So at the top is player one, bottom is player two. They have both of their 4 hit points there, and then in the middle of them is the play area. So that's where we will lay down our cards when we're making an attack and when we're defending. Um, then on the right, then you'll see that we have a draw pile and a discard pile as well. So the first turn's a little different than the rest of the game. The first turn, both players will roll a d6 die to determine the play order, and then afterwards, each player will then roll a d6 die. Oh no, sorry. And then afterwards, the players are only allowed to buff one attack on their first turn. Um, oh, sorry. Players will then roll the d6 die once to determine their starting hand, and then players will be allowed to buff only once on their turn. So say player one rolls a 3, then they would draw 3 cards, and then that would be their starting hand. Okay. Now from there, players will start attacking and defending. So first, before your turn starts, you're gonna go ahead and roll your d6 die, and that will determine how many cards the player will receive from the draw pile. Note that by the end of your turn, you do have to get rid of however many cards you need to in order to have 6 in your hand at the end of the turn. You can't have more than 6 when you end your turn. So either play those cards or discard the ones that are left over. For this phase, players can choose to either attack or buff their hit points on their turn. They can't do both, and the way buffing works is you just place a card on top of the health point or the hit point, and that would add to that hit point value. And it can only be done once per hit point. So say there's a 4 and it's looking kind of low, so then I want to add like a 6, then that whole thing would be 10. And then of course you would end your turn if you get done buffing. Of course, on the other side, you can attack instead of buffing. Players can play a limit of 3 combined cards to attack another player's hit point. 3 cards of the same suit will deal double damage, and a 3 of kind will deal 4 times damage, or quadruple damage. And then after that, you move on to the defense phase. So the defense phase is now in the other player's hand. The defending player has 2 options. They either roll a d20 and subtract the attacking player's total account, or they play one defense card. They play one defense card, or they play up to 3 defense cards. If the defending total is higher than the attacking total, then the attack is blocked and all the cards in play are discarded. So it's a little hard making that decision whether or not you want to roll the d20 die or just straight up play 3 defense cards. Of course, if you have enough to defend with just 3 defense cards, that would be the safest option. But if you're out of cards and you need like a Hail Mary play, then the first option would probably be the best bet for you. If the player cannot successfully block the attack, then the hit point is then flipped over and is no longer in play. Any buffs that are applied to the hit point are removed and placed in the discard pile, and that's more significant once we get into the special cards. Number cards just work just as normal. They're just numbers, so 5 and 4 would be 9, etc., etc. They can just be combined for attacks and defense. And then we have the face cards. The face cards are special cards. So what you do with face cards is you play them, and then you do the action, and then you go on with your turn. And there's 3 different ways that it can be used for. So as a hit point, it can only be attacked by another face card or a combination of of three of the same suit. So say it's a King of Hearts that I have as a hit point, then it would need to be attacked by another king, or it would need to be attacked by three of a kind, and it would be not three of a kind, but three of the same suit, and they would all have to be hearts. On the attack, the king card. So you would play the king card, and you could attack with 30 points of damage. Think of that king card as now a 30 on your attack. The queen will actually revive a hit point. So if you play that, you can go ahead and revive whatever hit point that is. And that's why we remove the buffs from it once that hit point is flipped over, because you can't revive the buff as well. And then the jack card will just give you an extra attack card to play on your turn. As for defense, the king can defend any attack. Excuse me. So once you play that king, that's it. The turn's basically over. You defended that whole thing, then you place it in the discard pile. The queen, you will get 2 extra defense cards, and then the jack, you will get 1 extra defense card. And then we actually have one more special card. It's the joker. Jokers cannot be used as hit points. So if you get dealt a joker that's very unlucky, you're just playing down a hit point, and that cannot be revived. You just place it in the discard pile, and you cannot replace it with another card. But on the other hand, the joker is very good for making steals, or the only thing it can do is steal on attack or defense. The joker steals cards from the opponent. What you do is you roll a d4 die, and then you determine how many cards are stolen. It's obviously a little bit more stronger on attack than defense, but sometimes on defense, the opponent might be hiding a special card for the next turn, and then you can go ahead and steal that for your defense currently. And then, of course, after stealing your cards, then you continue your turn as normal. Now, we're going to go ahead and do an example of this. Okay, so let me be player 1 here, and then the other side will be player 2. So we want to roll a d6 die to determine who goes first. Player 1, so I'm going to have a 6, so I'm just going to say that player 2 is going to go second. So this is player 2, player 1. So now what I do is I want to roll another d6 die, and I start out with 5 cards in my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go ahead and flip these over, by the way. I forgot to do that. And let's roll one more time for the other player. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. So now this is the first turn, so we're going to go ahead and buff. This 2 is very low, so I'm going to go ahead and buff this. And on this other side, this ace is, of course, it's only 1, so I'm going to go ahead and buff that as well. So now this becomes just a king, because it's just a king. And then this becomes just a jack. Okay, so now I'm going to roll again for my first, technically my second turn. I grab 2 cards, and now I can make an attack. I think what I want to do is I want to go ahead and attack the 9. I want to go ahead and get this out of the game as soon as possible. So let's go 5, 4. I want to play my jack here, and I want to play an extra card for attack. So I'm going to put all these together here. Right now that's 15, and this would be 21. Okay, so now the defending player has to come up with a way to defend this 9. Obviously they cannot defend this, so I think what they would want to do is roll a d20 die and hope for the best. They get a 10, and maybe they could defend with the 8. They can only play one other card, so unfortunately they did not successfully block this. So now this gets flipped over, and everything is now in the discard pile. So now player 2 would go ahead and make their roll, and now they get 6 cards. That's actually really good. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6. Okay, so what the other player wants to do is probably want to attack this 4. It's pretty low. So what they would want to do is, let's add these together. 7. Or actually, you know what I could do is I could go ahead and revive this hit point. I'm going to revive this hit point, and then I'm going to play as normal. I'm going to attack with 7, 3. Let's do 7, 5, and 4. Okay. So now this player has to come up with 9, 16. And we've only got one card to defend here. It's a king, so usually I wouldn't want to just waste it on this, but I think just for demonstration purposes, we're just going to use it. So now everything's canceled out because this is a king. King defends anything. So let's go ahead and put everything back in the discard pile. So now we're back to neutral. Both of these players do not have more than 6 cards, so then we continue as normal. And that's sort of just a light demo of how the game goes. Of course, there's stuff like jokers that we could have gone over and whatnot, but I think that I went over the main point and everything. But yeah, I had a lot of fun making this. What's interesting is how different each playthrough can go. There's only a limited number of special cards, but sometimes you're dealt really bad hands, and the game could end within like 2 or 3 turns. But sometimes games could last pretty long, depending on whether either player is making the right decisions. But yeah, that's my game, and I hope you guys liked it. Thank you.